All right, so now we are moving on to Aries within the ranking order of the most masculine to the most feminine. And I'm still not sure how I'm going to separate these videos. I might just end up uploading them individually, each archetype individually. They are turning out to be an hour long each. So I might just splice in an introduction that I've already made and put that at the beginning and go from there. So I don't know if I'm going to reintroduce myself. Probably not. So, anyways, I'm probably going to end up uploading these individually instead of having like a 6-hour video. That would probably be more wise. Anyway, we're moving on to Aries. So yes, that means I need to bring up the key card. I made these key cards many, many years ago, combining astrology and psychology. It is a huge visual help when talking about the personalities. All right, so good enough. All right, so Aries, initiatory masculine impact. The first responsible or the first the first response archetype, excuse me, definitely not first responsible. That is actually a joke inside itself. So all right, so why Aries is ranked second in this most masculine to feminine list. I just made it. I always do that. I always make jokes, and it's like anyway. All right, so why Aries is ranked second? Why impact follows containment? Aries does, or the ESTP, does not come after Capricorn or the ISTJ because it is weaker, less valuable, or less masculine. Aries necessarily. Aries comes second because impact by itself is not a civilization. It is impact as a spark. Capricorn is what turns a spark into something that can actually endure. Capricorn asks what will survive when no one is watching. Aries asks what must happen right now. Both questions are necessary, but they are not equal in load-bearing order. Civilizations moves because Aries exists. Civilization lasts because Capricorn exists. That's why Aries is second. Containment decides what survives. Impact decides what begins. So Aries is the initiatory masculine impact. All right, so core function. I'm going to try not to edit as I go, but I just can't help myself. Like, I'm editing multiple books at one time at all times, so it's just a lot of freaking work. All right, so Aries is fire. Fire represents the seeing and feeling, the expression of their own seeing, how they see things, how they perceive things, and their own feelings. They will probably not admit that, but the fire signs, the element of fire, all of the fire signs, they will express what they think, how they see, and how they feel. So Aries is also cardinal. That means that they are the initiators. Cardinal in the seasonal aspect, they start new seasons. They're also very much like that in their personality. So they love initiating new projects. They are the starter. So it's Mars ruled. Mars is in the ruler position with extroverted sensing hero. It is masculine leading polarity in its most recognizable form: action, confrontation, assertion, and initiation. Aries cognition is front loading. It experiences the world through immediacy. Its mind is oriented to the present moment. That's SE. To stimulus, to timing, to the opening in the situation. The cognitive tone is extroverted sensing hero with Mars, and TI, introverted thinking parent, and the sun. It explains why Aries looks blunt, fast, and sometimes too much. Aries doesn't primarily interpret reality through story first. It interprets reality through contact first. Extroverted sensing represents the five senses, experiencing the five senses and wanting to do so. So they're very hands on, in other words. That's why Aries' core masculine function is not dominance, it's decisive movement under pressure. Aries is built to initiate, intervene, and apply force. Aries ask one question, and it's always the same. What needs to happen right now? When Aries is healthy, that question is heroic. When Aries is split, that question becomes compulsive. All right, so I'm pulling from two different freaking documents here. They're both like 70 pages each. So I tried doing this freaking video presentation a day ago and I was stumbling a lot and I did not like it. So I reorganized it and added a lot more information. So I won't be stumbling as much, but I want to also make sure I don't miss anything because I have not combined these two documents together yet, which I will, working on it, and I will be uploading this as a ebook itself on my website because some people like to read instead of watch videos, or they like to watch the video and also have a book. All right, so let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Element fire, masculine leading, Mars, action first, impact. Continually trying to eat my microphone. Masculine leading Aries, acts first, corrects later, carries moral weight through intervention, feels responsible for movement, not outcome. Ethics, did I act when it mattered? Shadow, coercion, reactivity, and righteousness. Risk, confusing urgency with truth. So the feminine within the Aries initiates emotional truth, protects life force, not dominance. Anger becomes boundary clarity. And women often socially punished, the masculine, and men often rewarded early, then destabilized. Integration, Mars serves protection, not impulse. Core social duty, initiate, break inertia, act when others hesitate. What Aries gives society: momentum, courage, and first move energy. So they are the pioneer. They want to be first. They are very competitive. I'm an Aries rising, 0 degrees. So when people first meet me, they get Aries energy. And then when you get to know me, you will get a little splash of Pisces, but mostly Capricorn energy. So I talk fast, I drive fast, I walk fast. I used to be a runner. I wanted to be first. Aries always wants to be first, and I know that I am certainly triggering y'all for not having you first on the masculine ranking order. It is what it is. I've sat on this question since I began studying astrology and psychology over 10 years ago. So I, it is what it is. If you want to debate, and I know you do, let's go. Let's go. All right. Shadow, if unintegrated, violence, recklessness, moral impulsivity, do something without wisdom. Integrated role, the one who moves truth into action without becoming a weapon. And I do mostly follow Aries here on YouTube. For some reason, I didn't realize that until I started studying this stuff. It's amazing looking back in your life to see what type of personalities you are attracted to through relationship, romance, and just following in general. Mostly Aries. I love my freaking Aries. I will tell you that. All right, so moral load. I'm going to get into moral load, intervention, ethics. Aries carries intervention ethics. So we have extroverted feeling in the left field, or I'm sorry, in the child cognitive position. So that does represent ethics. Ethics, not necessarily morals. So they are attuned to the group when it comes to that. So Aries carries intervention ethics, not outcome ethics. Capricorn's moral load is long horizon. Did it endure? Aries' moral load is immediate. Did I act when it mattered? Aries experiences morality as a moment of contact, an instant where choice becomes consequence. So we all have morals and ethics, but we tend to lead with one over the other, FYI. All right, so Aries feels responsible for movement in the moment of need, especially when everyone else freezes, hesitates, intellectualizes, or waits for permission. Aries does not wait for permission, I will tell you that. Aries' moral weight is heavy precisely because Aries can see how much harm escalates when no one moves. So Aries ethics are not about longevity. They are about response. Aries asks, did I protect life force? Did I interrupt danger? Did I act while there was still time? That's why Aries can look reckless to slower, more reflective archetypes. Because from Aries' internal lens, hesitation doesn't look wise. It looks immoral. Aries is the archetype that experiences delay as betrayal. That's not immaturity necessarily. That's how first response intelligence is wired. So there are a lot of police officers, military, lawyers. That is like the career types of career Aries likes. Very adrenaline junkies. A lot of them like to jump out of airplanes. They like to be the boss. They like to be first. I know a lot of Aries, actually, and I have tons of Aries on both sides of my families. I have many lawyers on both sides of my family. My great-grandfather, he was an Aries, and he actually ended up getting he was a farmer, and he ended up getting his pilot license, then he ended up buying 11 airplanes. He opened up an airport out of his house, which my dad currently lives in. So he started the first airport in this area, and then he ended up opening 4 or 5 other airports and teaching others how to fly. He also did the, parachuting with other people, and then his son ended up taking the business. And so it's very fascinating. I do have a lot of Aries. Lawyers, you name it. I love Aries. Aries rising here. I love y'all. Just letting you know. So Aries, the initiator, lead, action, impact, first movement, moral load, acts when others hesitates, capture, defense, defensiveness, breaks, fusion, collapse, loss, masculine initiation and rites of passage, distortion, reactivity, coercion, urgency without wisdom, integrated role, moves truth into action without becoming a weapon. All right, so I'm going to move into what happens when initiation collapses. And then I will get into lost without initiation. So, what happens when initiation collapses? This is where modern culture breaks Aries. Historically, Aries or ESTP was initiated. There were rites of passage. There were elders who conferred legitimacy. Now you fight for this, not everything. There were thresholds. Childhood ends here, adulthood begins here. Your aggression now has purpose and restraint. When those containers collapse, Aries still feels urgency but has no mission. The fire still ignites but has nowhere to go. So Aries begins to feel lost as constant agitation, rage with no target, action without meaning. The internal feeling becomes, I have to do something. But something isn't a sacred duty anymore. It's a nervous system discharge. Modern distortion then follows predictably. Reactivity replaces courage. Chaos gets mistaken for aliveness, and Aries gets exploited because movements can monetize urgency. When initiation collapses, Aries becomes easy to mobilize and hard to steer. That's not because Aries is bad, it's because Mars without structure becomes exploitable fuel. All right, so I'm going to see if I missed anything on this other note. I call it a note, but it's like a freaking 70-page book. Modern distortion. So modern distortion becomes reactive instead of brave, mistakes chaos for aliveness, gets used by movements that weaponize urgency, moral signaling, rage bait, that type of stuff. What collapsed clear initiations into adulthood. Elders say, now you fight for this. Without initiation, Aries fights everything. All right, so split risk when impact has nowhere to land. When Aries lacks containment, A split forms between interior and exterior. Internally, Aries may experience raw impulse, anger, and fear of stagnation, fear of irrelevance, and fear of being trapped. Externally, that can present as hyperactivity, dominance, confrontation, and constant pressure to move. The split risk is simple and brutal. Impulse replaces discernment, and urgency replaces truth. This is not because Aries is inherently unsafe, it's because initiation has nowhere to land. The moment Aries cannot translate move into mission, impact becomes aggression. Force becomes compulsive, and people misread Aries as toxic when they're actually witnessing is an archetype operating without its necessary container. So I am talking a lot about institutions failing in the current age and how we lack many different containers that we used to, and initiations. Like, holy shit, we don't have the initiation into adult. We've lost so much. It's just so sad. Like, I'm trying not to rant, but it's so freaking, like, I see it. Like, I've studied a lot into the indigenous stuff. We don't have rites of passage anymore from adult childhood to adulthood is one example. It's like we're very lost. We are very lost. And I'm trying to put words to it. All right, let me make sure I didn't miss anything on this other side. I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself on that. So, all right, I'm going to go into male versus female expression within Aries and how people feel it. Aries men often express masculinity through decisiveness, physical presence, competitive drive, and direct confrontation. People feel energized around them or pressured. The room wakes up, things happen. There's often a sense of immediacy. Something is happening now. When integrated, this can feel protective and clarifying. When split, it can feel dominating, impulsive, or unsafe because the energy is forced without pause. Shadow Aries men often process emotion only through movement. Anger becomes action, fear becomes confrontation, sadness becomes irritability. They may act before thinking, not out of stupidity, but because the nervous system is set to mobilize first. Without containment, that becomes destabilizing to others. Aries women express directness, leadership, boundary, clarity, rapid truth telling. People often feel challenged around them, exposed, and startled, not because Aries women are cruel, but because they don't soften first. They don't negotiate with reality to make it palatable. They name it and move. And culturally, Aries women are often punished for traits that are rewarded in men. That creates a predictable shadow, burnout from carrying initiation alone, overfunctioning, rage from being forced to self initiate everything in relationships, work, and emotional labor. The core tension is this: initiation without recognition exhausts Aries women fastest. All right. So I'm going to break this down a little bit more because I have more notes here. Male expression in Aries, masculinity expressed through action, competition, risk, processes emotions through movement, confrontation, and decisiveness. Shadow, impulsivity, domination, act now, think later. Female expression, masculine polarity shows as directness and leadership, often socially punished for traits celebrated in men. Shadow, burnout from carrying too much alone. Aries men don't ghost, they sprint. Aries women don't argue, they finish the argument before it starts. It's starting to get, the sun is coming up. I just noticed that. All right, so integrated role, Mars under authority. Integrated Aries is not aggressive, it is protective. It is the archetype that moves truth into action without becoming a weapon. This is the critical distinction. Aries doesn't replace containment, it serves it. Aries becomes heroic when Mars answers to Saturn, when impact is guided by consequence. When Aries is integrated, action becomes sacred. Force becomes service. The first move becomes an act of protection, not an act of dominance. And this is why Aries is second. Aries is not, y'all are triggered AF. Aries is not meant to be the container. Aries is meant to be the ignition inside the container. Aries changes the moment. Capricorn decides what endures. I'm sorry, y'all. I know you want to be first. All right, so make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, I'm good. Why people misread Aries as toxic or immature. People don't misread Aries because Aries is violent. They misread Aries because they confuse mobilization with aggression, directness with cruelty, urgency with instability. Aries doesn't destabilize systems. Lack of containment destabilizes Aries. A contained Aries is one of the most productive, honest, and useful forces in any human system. An uncontained Aries looks like chaos because it is operating without structure, not because its core is corrupt. All right, so now I'm going to go into the 4 functions that you see on the screen. All right, so we have initiatory masculine impact, how the mind actually works. Aries is not impulsive. Aries is first response intelligence. Its psyche is built to move reality before it calcifies. I just thought of something. I always say I was born ready. I'm an Aries rising 0 degrees. I was born ready. Like, let's go. Let's do it. That's funny. All right, so overview how Aries thinks under pressure. Aries cognition is front loaded. Perception, action, correction, reflection later. This is the opposite of Capricorn. Capricorn is reflection, structure, action, and endurance. That's why Aries looks chaotic to people who only trust delayed action. The 4-point planetary and cognitive architecture. So we have Mars and extroverted sensing hero here, the impact engine. Mars in Aries, expressed through SE hero, is first response intelligence. There's actually a lot of first responders that are Aries too. It detects immediacy, threat, open. A lot of them are in the Marines as well. They like to be on the ground, like infantry style. It detects immediacy, threat, opening, opportunity, and responds faster than conscious deliberation. Timing matters more than theory. The body is the sensor, action is cognition. Aries doesn't think about danger, it moves towards or away from it. The moral logic is simple. If I don't act now, harm happens. That's why people feel Aries as activating, pressuring, and energizing, sometimes overwhelming. To slower systems, it feels like rushing. To Aries, the slower system looks like freezing. Aries can definitely be impatient. Mars, primary driver, initiatory force. What Mars does here: mobilizes energy instantly, responds to threat or opportunity, prioritizes action over reflection, and values courage over comfort. How people feel it: intensity, immediacy, and confrontation. Why it gets misread. Mars is visible. Visibility scares passive systems. So what SE Hero actually does, this is the engine, detects immediacy, threat, opening, and opportunities, prioritizes real world stimulation over abstraction. So they are concrete and pragmatic. Let me pull this up real quick. Where did the key card go? All right, so they are concrete, so they are dealing in facts, not abstraction. Pragmatic, so they are not affiliative. Affiliative is when you are checking in with the group to make decisions. Aries is pragmatic, and so they're not going to check in with people before they make decisions. All right. They like to test the rules, test traditions, live in the moment, and have a mechanical aptitude. They are direct in their interaction styles, very blunt and direct. Some people would say they're brash. They're initiating. That is very masculine, initiating. All right. So, SE Hero responds faster than conscious thought and treats hesitation as risk. SE Hero is not reckless, it is situationally intelligent. How this function experiences reality. The body is the sensor. Timing matters more than theory. Reality is something to engage, not interpret. Not necessarily. I mean, at first, Aries are actually very freaking scholarly. I will say that more in like academia. Action is cognition, but they are also very holistic. They do have introverted intuition, but it is an inferior, and so it might take them a little longer to become more holistic thinking, but eventually they are, and I absolutely love that about them because normally they are very health conscious. Aries doesn't think about danger, it moves towards it or away from it. Moral logic inside SE Hero. If I don't act now, harm happens. That's why Aries feels morally compelled to move. How people feel SE Hero. Activated, pressured, energized, sometimes overwhelmed. So to slower systems, SE Hero feels like you're rushing me, but to Aries, they would say that you're freezing. Shadows of SE Hero, adrenaline addiction, mistaking stimulation for truth, confusing movement with meaning. SE Hero must be paired with containment or it burns itself out. So yeah, Aries, they like to move first, but they can burn out. They are a starter type, so they don't necessarily see their projects through, and they do it like think of it as a spark. Sparks burn out. They don't have as much endurance. Capricorn has the most endurance. Aries, they like to start things, but they can definitely burn out. All right, so now we're going to move on to the sun in exaltation, identity through agency. I do need a drink real quick. Here's being absolutely crazy. All right, so what was I doing? Sun. There. Sun exalted. It's like insane. It's like 10 degrees right now, and the wind is freaking insane. Sun exalted, identity through agency. The exalted sun in Aries makes identity inseparable from action. Aries stabilizes the ego through agency. I act, therefore I am. So the quotation for Aries is I am. Stagnation becomes an ego threat. This creates intolerance for passivity and profound respect for courage. It also creates the shadow. If identity fuses with outcomes, failure can feel like personal annihilation. This is why Aries needs initiation. Ritualized meaning teaches Aries that failure is part of mastery, not proof of worthiness. Sun exalted, identity through action. So the sun ties identity to agency, equates selfhood with initiative, and collapses self-doubt through movement. This makes Aries existentially allergic to stagnation. So Aries is asking, who am I? When Aries is prevented from acting, identity destabilizes. This creates extreme intolerance for passivity, deep respect for courage, contempt for performative morality, and relief through decisive action. How people feel the sun here: intense, confident, confrontational, and sometimes overwhelming. Because the sun is visible. Capricorn's authority is invisible. Aries' authority is embodied. Shadow of sun in exaltation. Ego fused to action outcomes. Identity collapse after failure. Over identification with winning and making impacts. This is why Aries needs ritualized initiation. Failure without meaning wounds the ego deeply. So Venus in left field with extroverted feeling, a child, emotional processing through engagement. Aries is not emotionally blind. Aries is emotionally interactive. FE child wants response, reaction, and engagement. It processes feelings through exchange, not introspection. Aries test relational reality. So say it back, meet me here, push against me, not to dominate, but to feel the boundary. When this goes well, Aries is transparent and alive. When this goes badly, when ignored or rejected, FE child can escalate, confuse attention with care, and provoke harder to get contact. So, what Venus does here seeks response, reaction, and engagement, reads relational energy quickly, wants immediate feedback. Oh, yes, I do want to say this. Aries are actually one of the best personality types that reads body language. They're very, very good at reading body language. I love watching the behavioral body language analysis people. I'm obsessed. They're very good at reading body language. All right, so why it matters. Aries is not emotionally blind, it just processes emotion in motion. So, this is the most misunderstood part of Aries here. Aries is not emotionally insensitive. It processes emotion externally and immediately. What FE child does seeks reaction, response, and engagement, reads social energy in real time, wants confirmation through interaction, and processes feelings through exchange, not introspection. Aries doesn't sit with feelings, it tests feelings. Say it back, push against me, meet me here. That's not avoidance, that's interactive regulation. How FE child shows up teasing, provoking, challenging, and playful confrontation. This is how Aries checks safety, interest, loyalty, and alignment. How people feel this exposed, activated, sometimes pressured, and why are you pushing me? But Aries isn't pushing to dominate, it's pushing to feel where the boundary is. Shadow of FE, reactivity to rejection, escalation when ignored, confusing attention with care. This is where Aries gets labeled as toxic when its relational bids go unanswered. Now we're going to move on to Saturn in fall and introverted intuition in the inferior. Week long horizon containment. Saturn is in fall in Aries. An introverted intuition or NI inferior struggles with delayed consequence, long range forecasting, and restraint without movement. Aries lives in the now. NI lives in later. Internally, it can feel like if it hasn't happened yet, it is not real. Aries learns through tangible consequence. That's why Aries matures dramatically with Saturn heavy partners, structured environments, and real rites of passage. Aries doesn't generate containment, it responds to it. Without Saturn, Mars burns out. So, Saturn in fall here, weak containment. What Saturn struggles with here is delay, long term consequence, and restraint without movement. This is why Aries needs external containment to mature. Without Saturn, Mars burns itself out. So this is the Achilles heel, what NI inferior struggles with. All right, so I'm kind of repeating myself. I'm going to do some editing. Trusting unseen outcomes. So Aries often experiences, okay, so Saturn is structure, time, boundaries, consequences. So they do lack they can lack boundaries. They don't understand they don't understand that other people have boundaries. It's really funny actually. I like it personally. Like I'm fine with that. I'm like very Saturn heavy. And it's like Aries will just like say whatever in the moment and I find I like it. Like I love blunt people. It's totally cool with me. All right, so shadow of NI inferior and Saturn, ignoring long-term fallout, burning bridges unintentionally, repeating cycles before learning, and needing consequences to be tangible. This is why Aries matures dramatically when paired with Saturn-heavy partners. Place in structured environments, they actually tend to seek structured environments. That's why a lot of them get into the military. Given clear rites of passage. So, how these four work together Mars initiates, Sun anchors identity into action, Venus seeks immediate relational response, and Saturn struggles to slow the system down. This creates powerful masculine impact, rapid intervention, capacity, and low tolerance for inertia. This is masculine leading polarity, just expressive, not quiet. So this creates a psyche. I'll make sure I'm like not repeating myself too much. All right, so I've got so much editing to do still. So why Aries gets misread so badly. People mistake speed for instability, confrontation for aggression, urgency for immaturity, and visibility for lack of depth. But Aries isn't shallow, it's fast, and speed without containment scares slow systems. So Aries thinks with its body first, and its meaning catches up later. So Capricorn decides what survives and Aries decides what begins. And once you understand those two, every other archetype makes sense in relation to them. So I am going to get into comparing the both, which I have done in a prior video. I think I'm going to end up just splicing a couple of videos together because I've got like 4 hours of video recorded. I am redoing this section. I was not satisfied with the prior one, but I am satisfied with the comparison of Capricorn and Aries. So I will probably be dressed differently, and that makes me wildly like I don't like that, but it's fine. I'll probably end up making that into its own video. All right, so it should be obvious now that Capricorn is containment. Aries needs containment. Without containment, Aries becomes destructive. And with containment, Aries becomes heroic. All right, so this is where I'm going to end this video. And I will probably just end up uploading the comparison between Capricorn and Aries itself. I might tag it on to this video. I'm not really sure. I just have not decided. I have so much freaking information. These videos are turning out to be a lot longer. It always happens. Always happens. I start a note and it turns into a 100-page book. I have been like this my entire freaking life, even in college, even in high school, even in elementary. I've been writing my entire life. It's absolutely wild. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Aries being the second, not first in the masculine ranking. If y'all want to headbutt me, feel free. As long as you push the subscribe and comment down below your thoughts and feelings, that's fine. I'm a ramrod myself. I am the goat and ramrod, so bring it. Anyways, take care, y'all, and I will see you in the next video.